Good evening, and welcome back to the Eve Prosper Market Show. We're back in the new year, and we've got a lot of news to talk about. So, thanks everybody who's tuned in live on Twitch and YouTube. We're going to go ahead and start with some quick show news to the dulcet tones of the Jita Undock. And just to liven things up, I know that if you've watched the YouTube playbacks, you've seen my ugly mug, but I thought I'd at least try something new this week. So hello there, Internet. Just to break down our quick regular points, if you want to chat with us off the air, the best place to do so is on the Tweetfleet Slack server. Information to join will be down in the descriptions below. Two, make sure if you're tuning in, we are on all of the platforms that you could want to be on. We are on YouTube, we are on podcast, we are on Twitch, we are on YouTube. All you have to remember is Eve Prosper, and that will get you to everywhere. Also, if you want to see updates outside of the show, be sure to tune into eveprosper.com for the blog, and Eve Prosper on the Tweet Fleet, where I share graphs and price alerts. So that's really the best place to go watch it. I want to thank everyone who tunes into the show and supports the show. It's been a particularly busy time IRL, and I really do appreciate everybody who has shown their support and been behind us. It's been a real treat to give you guys the news and continue reporting, whether that's here live on the show or on the blog or whatever. It's really great. I really do love the whole audience. It's really great to see all of you guys participating. So I want to thank you one more time for your support, especially through the holidays. I really meant to do between Thanksgiving and Christmas a hi, I'm Lockefox IRL, thank you, and I just didn't get a chance, so I wanted to take the moment now. In a quick bit of blog news, be sure to tune in to the blog. We updated 2 posts during the break. One to review the Plex prediction, which we'll go over during the show, and then another to talk about the 2015 in review. Got them up on Reddit, had some really great traffic, really great feedback. So be sure to go tune in there. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and move straight into everyone's favorite, Plex. Plex has been really interesting over December, and this is actually, I'm a little upset I didn't report this better during the events. Christmas, again, was extremely busy for me, and things were pretty interesting, especially here at the very end of the month. We saw Plex dipping under the 1.15 billion mark, and it stayed. It looks like if you got lucky, you could get a couple at 1.1 billion if you were really keeping a close eye. I really have to reiterate what I've said on the blog and on Reddit, is that I really think if you need to stock up, this 1.15 billion price is the best we're going to see ahead of Citadel's. It's extremely. We're seeing it bump up against the lower RSI line, and to expect it to go much lower without another provocation from CCP, I think is foolhardy. This is a great chance to stock up. I don't know if the prices are going to go any lower, and if you believe in DeLone Wolf's prediction, which I give some amount of credence to, that the prices should trend up into the Citadel release, this is the very best time to jump on the bandwagon. If we look at the year in review, we see it's easy to say that the downward trend will continue, but due to the other indicators down here on the bottom of the graph, I really cannot stress enough that this 1.15 billion is a local minimum. It's turning around right now. It's tracking back up. I don't know if we'll get to 1.2 in this month, but better to take care of it now than to get screwed down the line. And then if we look at RMT tokens across the board, we saw with Frostline's release a huge dip in the multiple pilot training certificate market due to the yield, them being dropped in Frostline sites. The behavior is actually pretty interesting here, where the I expected it to actually continue to track low through the Frostline event, but we're actually seeing them both kind of converge back to their stable price at 1.15 billion. So again, if you'd bought into multiple pilot training certificates, I'd hold on to them. I think that it's a pretty good investment. It should track Plex, but now is not the time to sell. Now is the time to buy. I still think they're a pretty decent buy, especially if you can get them on buy order. You can really beat the Plex price here on buy order. The volume that comes through here is pretty anemic. Moving on to the extended view, this includes the JITA price versus the actual order count. And I'm still working on this visualization, so feedback is appreciated. Again, we see the prices track down, a few buy orders slipping under the 1.1 billion mark. And then we saw this strange behavior, which I really need to work on locking out. I think this might be because you can do a bunch of very cheap buy orders, that this volume is sticking out of the curve so strongly. I'm not sure that this baseline count is real, but yeah, this one's a pretty interesting behavior over the last couple of weeks. And then I know that nobody really goes to other places to get their Plex other than JITA, but just to look at the other markets to make sure that we're still in line with each other. Amar is trending just slightly lower than JITA, and Dodixie is tracking, spiking up reasonably high lately. So this actually might be a pretty decent arbitrage opportunity if you wanted to go station trading, and we're willing to deal with the lower volumes. And then last, I just wanted to come back to our Q4 prediction that I put out in October. Really was happy up until the Black Friday, and then this downward behavior was a lot more than I expected. To be honest, I have a hard time saying that it's the actual correction, because we came from this sub-billion and then broke through this roof up to 1.3 billion. I would expect even more slide if this was a real correction. But generous sales during the events and Frostline drops, I believe, have driven the market down reasonably low. So this is the last time we're going to see this particular plot. I'm going to see if I can go roll up a new prediction for Q1 and Q2, but I really need to know when CCP is releasing Citadels to be able to do this discontinuity correctly. So stay tuned for more of that. Moving on to minerals, and because my wife made me do that, we're going to start at Tritanium. Tritanium is tracking pretty steadily. It's showing a lot of strength in the last couple of months, tracking up to 6.3 at the moment. Volumes have been rather healthy. I still think that there is some more positive pressure that can be seen here, that we could get up to 6.4 or 6.5 in the intervening months, but that's not a ton of movement. I don't know if I'd really invest in Tritanium. Pyrite, on the other hand, has been a little unstable, and I should have included the year view from Pyrite, because that's actually a pretty interesting. It was a pretty interesting graph. It's been tracking high in the 11.5 range for a while, but we're seeing ever so slight decrease in Pyrite over the last few weeks. At 11.2, I want to say that we're getting towards a local minimum. If you can get them on buy order for 11.0, I think is a pretty decent price. I'm not sure exactly where minerals are going to be going in the next few weeks. The top end and bottom end are a little harder to predict at the moment. Mexilon is staying extremely stable, hanging in around 61 per unit. Again, I think this is a canary in the coal mine. If you still think that capital changes are going to move things significantly, or you want to bet on Citadels kind of sideways, Mexilon, I think, is a decent place to do that. I think it's at a low price for the moment, but I don't know how much upward pressure it can really sustain. To try and get back the 70-72 that we saw back in October, I think would be optimistic, but not unreasonable. So this is actually a pretty decent time to buy in if you wanted to bet on capitals, if you wanted to bet on citadels. Isogen, on the other hand, has been tracking down. We're at about 108 at the moment, and volumes have stayed relatively stable. The downward tracking, I believe, is due to added amber yields. We're seeing a lot more, some more isogen into the flows. Even though the amber mix was increased the tritanium and the pyrite, I believe more amber is being mined, which is leading to more isogen hitting the market. So we might see this slide just under 105. I have a hard time believing it'll go much below 105. Noxium, again, is tracking down. Similar story. I think we're seeing a decent supply from nullsec making its way to highsec. I think we're in moderate oversupply, but not to spoil later in the show, this may turn around in the upcoming weeks due to some other signals we'll talk about later. Zydrene. So Zydrene and Megasite I've been picking on for the last few months, and it looks like they're finally turning around from their slow slides. Ever since the summer, we've been seeing them both on this linear slide down. Zydrene crossing under 1K at the start of November. Not at the start of December, and tracking towards 900. We're seeing it track up slightly, but I still don't think we're out of the woods yet. I really wouldn't call this a great buy opportunity. I still think that nullsec will vastly oversupply Zydrene and Megasite, and that it's really hard to say that... I have a hard time telling you that these will turn around because supply will turn them around. I think they're at a local minimum where they're at the bargain basement at the moment. But if activity turns up, I think they'll start tracking down again, just because I always expect them in oversupply. Megasite is a similar story. We saw it all brush against 1,000 in the last week or so and turn around to 1,100. I think this turnaround is more of a speculative buyout than real pressure. We're still not seeing... We're seeing a little bit of sustained volume, but I think this is from people who disagree with me that high ends will be turning around. I just have a really hard time telling you guys that this is a good idea to buy into, because even if this is a local minimum, I have a hard time believing that we will come off of this floor much before Citadel. That I don't think it's a I do not think it's a great place to park your money at the moment. And then just to get another look at Megasite, we're seeing that Jita has been under-trending from Amar and Dodixie, and we've been seeing it just sort of correct and get back more in line with the other markets. And if we track the actual buy orders and sell orders, we're seeing that sell volume continues to be really strong at the moment, driving a lot of the behavior. That we're still seeing a very healthy supply, but a very flat demand from the buy order side. So I don't love these numbers yet, but it's a decent illustration of what's going on. And then last of the minerals, Morphite, which has been tracking down. And this one I actually would say is a decent place to buy in, especially if you can get some generous buy orders under 11K. I think that we're going to see I've been seeing some signals in the Tech 2 markets that look like we might be seeing a production spike, somebody marching off to war. And I don't know how high Morphite will track. I have a really hard time saying 12K. I'm not sure it'll go that high. But if you need to supply it, now is a great chance to go get some stockpiles up. I think 11.5K is completely reasonable. 12K is unlikely, but possible. If you are a bit more risk averse and you want to try your hands at something that should pay off quickly, Morphite I think would be a decent place to park some money for the next 1 or 2 weeks. And then just to get a picture of all of the minerals together, we see, again, that strong downward trend in the middle with isogen and mexilon and noxium. Reasonably flat, if a little bit weak, in pyrite and tritanium, and still a downward and flat trend in zydrine and megasite. Really need to reorder this so that they're in value order. Moving on to the fuel markets. Fuel markets were really interesting, have been really interesting the last couple of weeks. So if we look at isotopes, we see that since Frostline, we've been seeing a lot of extra volatility, especially in oxygen and helium isotopes, where things had been very stable around 700. Since Parallax, we've been seeing a lot of action. And this might be because of consumption in capitals. This might be somewhat due to reactions. I have a hard time believing that. And we continue to see a lot of strength in Caldari isotopes. And then if we look at fuel blocks, again, the story is pretty similar. We see this huge spike right ahead of Frostline in Minmatar and Amar. Blocks and trending back down to the 18K mark. And again, the strength of the isotopes is reflected in the strength of the fuel blocks. But right before the show, and I really should give credit where credit is due, Seika Tur in the Prosper channel on Slack pointed out that the prices of nitrogen isotopes were going completely nuts. And they were right. In the last few hours, actually, this is a snapshot taken right before the show. We've seen the prices spike up rather drastically, and it looks like, if we go look at the actual buy and sell margins, it looks like a big buyout. We're seeing the buy orders are tracking up slightly, but sell volume is way down. This number of open sell orders is just plummeting. So it looks like somebody's buying out the market. Now, the speculation that's probably driving this is that there has been a leak on the Eve Reddit about the new fuel blocks for Citadels being seen on the CC server. I haven't seen specific details about the composition of these fuel blocks yet, but it looks like there's something afoot, and to be honest, it might even be a little bit early. So if you want to put on your tinfoil hat, this is quite an interesting thing. So I would stay the hell away from nitrogen isotopes if you possibly can, especially at a price over 900. I really cannot stand behind that price. I expect this bubble to pop pretty quickly over the weekend. To be able to sustain that price it would take some serious effort. And moving on to our outliers. Well, I mean, we started with an outlier, but we'll move on to the main section of outliers. We start where we usually do with advanced materials. We saw, if you're watching the Twitter account, there was a price alert on crystalline carbonide, which spiked up with a big buyout up to 250, but has since reset back to the 200 level. Otherwise, everything else is looking pretty even at the moment. Phenolic composites are up pretty healthily. Metamaterials are also trending up. This would actually be a decent chance to be offloading some metamaterials if you're watching the markets close enough. But otherwise, I think the markets are staying at relatively stable spaces. Ceramic fibers keeping their strength would be a great chance to sell off now, though. It looks like the party's over. And so next, sorry, I'm getting distracted by all the chats. This one, I've got to figure out a visualization for you guys, because I think P4s, I think, are going to be an extremely interesting market for the next 3 months up into Citadel. It's been said by several, not just me, that the supply of P4s on the market at the moment is not enough to actually sustain any Citadel production. Like, there's not enough to build a single XL if you bought out the entire market. And I think that this is systematic to a general production shortage in P4s. So this is a great chance if you can get your hands on a cheap cheap barren or temperate planet to start investing in P2 to P4 enrichment. It's a personal favorite of mine if you're in faction warfare. I think that as a speculation, this is a great chance to be buying in. There is just not enough of this stuff to go around. And I think that as much as we talk about efficient market theory and that the news sets the market price, I have a hard time believing that that supply will be able to meet the demand on day zero for high-grade PI components. The sort of cartoonish number I've been putting around is that I think most of these prices need to double if production volumes don't start increasing significantly. But it's a complicated equation on what's going on, so I would not bank on double. Do not quote me on being double and that you're guaranteed to do it, because you're not. I still expect significant swings ahead of Citadels, especially as a final dev blog comes out that we should hope to see probably in the next 6 weeks. So this would be a great chance to be going in and putting in some decent buy orders, competing on decent sell orders. Be really careful with the volumes because, again, I don't want to rush everybody into the market, but I still think that the volumes are extremely anemic. So this is a great opportunity to start doing PI. This is a great opportunity to go be conquering some POCOs. This is a great opportunity to be a producer more than a trader. I think that to make money on the trade side of the equation is going to take a little more finesse than just buying a whole bunch and sitting on them. I think it's going to take it's going to take being able to buy good buy orders and being diligent in not just Jita but Amar and Odixie and moving everything around. So if you're willing to put in the effort, it's a good trade thing. But I think this is way more a win for producers. With that also being said, salvage prices have been pretty interesting since the production announcement. On the T1 side, we're seeing some strength in the sort of things that drive the prices of rigs in the first place. So your armor plates, your burned logic circuits, your contaminated nanite compound. I don't know if these are actually going to be in shortage when we get to Citadels, but I think that it wouldn't hurt to start to again be prudently collecting them if you were so inclined. The really interesting one comes around Tech 2, where if you're expecting that your Citadel is going to be around for a very long time and it's a long-term investment and it's an important investment, that why not go all the way to T2? T2 salvage is going to be extremely interesting in the meantime. So this one, again, I have a hard time saying exactly which one to go buy. But again, we continue to see a lot of strength in the drone components, in the armor plate components, in the shield components. So these are some pretty interesting times for the Tech 2 salvage market. Moving on to ships, and I'm going to mix some stuff in my ships for this week. Looks like Caldari Navy hook bills were tracking up, but that trend has turned around, and it looks like Caldari might be doing a faction warfare loyalty point binge. So again, I can back this up looking at the ballistic control system as well. Volumes are up slightly, prices are trending down. So if you have Caldari Navy faction goods, this is a great chance to get rid of them, because by the time the weekend's over, I think all the prices are going to crash out. So I think we're at the top. If you're listening to it live, you really should go be selling them. Get out of the market this weekend. The prices should be falling, in my opinion. Next, the Gnosis is another interesting ship. We're not seeing a lot of volume. Things are staying relatively stable, around 50 to 80 per day. But prices are tracking up wildly. Not really sure what's driving this. I didn't get a chance to do the zoom in to get more information, but if you've been holding Gnosis, it's a great chance to be selling. Not sure if this is what exactly is driving it. I don't think there's a ton of extra demand, but maybe some supply has dried up lately. Moving on to the start of my prediction that Tech 2 is going to be turning around in the next couple of weeks. Starting with assault frigates, we're seeing a lot of strength across the board. We're seeing the Ishkur tracking up. We're seeing the Enyo tracking up. We're seeing the Wolf tracking up. I should have standardized these to actual prices instead of... No, they should be standardized. They're not. Anyway, sorry. Next time I'll make sure that they're standardized to prices. But the prices are tracking up across the board. Looks like there is that assault frigates are gaining some popularity. Also, the Ishtar was tracking up, which is rather interesting. This, again, might just be a blip. I didn't get a chance to really zoom into it, but coming out of the 180 million mark and cresting up to the 200 million mark, it sure is interesting for a ship that really shouldn't be popular anymore. And, I mean, but if we look at the buy and sell prices, it looks like that Ishtar problem was a buyout or some sort of other market flub that reset the prices. We're back down to relatively normal at the moment. Moving on to bombers. Bombers are another interesting canary. I like to track bombers as the precursor for for nullsec conflict because they aren't very tanky. They're extremely powerful and useful in their role. And you just need truckloads of them. And we're seeing the Manticore and the Purifier blipping up. We'll see if this stays sustained or if this is just thanks to Wingspan's latest Going South series on YouTube, which I have been enjoying the ever-living crap out of. And I didn't include interceptors. So moving on, another really interesting point, and we're a little late to the party for speculating, but looks like somebody's buying out Typhoons. And if you were a betting man on the preparations for war, that sure is interesting. I don't know exactly who's doing it. I know that Imperium has used Typhoons in the past and that Alpha Doctrines are supposed to be coming back in vogue. But that sure is interesting with such a significant volume increase, basically buying out the market. I don't know if this will be sustained. I expect producers to rush in to fill the need, but volumes sure are high at the moment. Another interesting point is the Kronos has been tracking up for a few weeks now. And usually this is another one of those ships that I'm usually cautious about. Again, producers, if you're producing them, it's very easy to see a high margin, produce more than the market can sustain, and crash the market right after a bubble like this. So usually when we see this high point going up to about 1.4 billion-esque, we see a very sharp drop back under the 1.1 mark. And this sort of spike and fall behavior is what I expect from this market. But the prices have been staying sustained high reasonably well. I'm wondering, I don't think the volumes are high enough to say that anybody's using them in a meaningful doctrine, but it sure is interesting to see the Kronos so popular lately. Another interesting blip on the radar is the Curse. We saw it swing hard enough to trip our highest variance bin, and peaking up to 150 million. No, sorry, 180 million. And bouncing back down, but not all the way back down to the 150 million point we saw before. I still think the prices are a little bit on the high side at the moment, but with the rising tide of Tech 2, if you guys believe me, I think the cost of production will ramp to meet this 160 million price in the meantime. So I think that's a pretty decent floor at the moment. If you've got curses to sell, it's a decent chance to get rid of them. And then another interesting ship that just sort of came out of left field is the Buzzard. We saw it. It's usually been stable at a little over 20 million, and all of a sudden peaking out to 30 million. Again, I have a hard time thinking that this is going to be sustained, but this might have surprised producers enough that it'll take an entire week to really turn around in the meantime. So, holy cow, 42 people watching on the stream. Hello, everyone. And then to move on to a couple of items to close things out, we're looking right now at the Sisters Expanded Probe Launcher. It has been slowly but surely gaining traction since Parallax. And I have a feeling that the Frostline sites may have been driving people into more exploration, causing more people to want probing equipment, not just for Frostline sites, but for other exploration sites. So we're tracking down slightly under the 40 million mark, but I do kind of expect that to turn around and keep this slight positive pressure going forward until the Frostline event at least closes. And then last but not least, sinusoidal field generators are tracking down, which is interesting because they're mostly raw minerals. And to see them tank down so much, even though the volumes are very healthy at the moment, speaks to maybe an oversupply of producers, maybe some bad trading. Not really sure what's driving the thing specifically, but the prices are very low. And it'd be a great chance to stock up if you need to go and ship them out to the frontier. This would be a great chance to go buy a whole bunch and ship them out to your favorite Sino point to sell at a considerable markup. And then last but not least, we're going to get into a quick prediction review. Since it's been a few weeks since we've been on the air, I'm not really going to track the ones that we were doing in December. I'm going to just focus on the ones we've been tracking in the long term. First, the Gecko, which we've been doing for quite a while now. Prices had spiked up to a little over 85 million over the holiday, but have been falling down again. Again, I think we're in a reasonable steady state. I have a hard time wanting to keep tracking this if we're going to keep bouncing between 75 and 85 million. I'm thinking of pulling this graph from the show in the interim until we see something interesting come out of the Gecko market again. And then Quaff Zero, which has been dropping out of the Frostline sites. It looks like, if you wanted to read really into it, we're seeing a blip. And this might be because of a large buyout. We see a blip that's probably due to a large buyout, expecting the Frostline event to end soon. We're still seeing very healthy supply, though, so and a lot of buy demand still in the market. So it's a great chance to keep stocking up. I had actually expected the price to track closer down to 5 million. Like, I expected us to hit up Frostline, maybe track up to 8, down to 5, and then back up again once the Frostline event ended. But Quaff Zero is such a useful booster, and the drop rate isn't as high as I was really expecting. I was expecting more than just the one per site. So this is a great chance to stock up. It's a great booster to have on hand and handy because it is just useful all the frickin' time. So, and that'll wrap up our show. Again, I want to thank everybody who tuned in live on YouTube and Twitch. We had one of our best nights yet at 45 on Twitch and 10 on YouTube, which is a really great turnout. So thanks again, everybody who tuned in live. I've been your host, Lockefox. This is the Eve Prosper Market Show. If you want to tune in, all you have to remember is Eve Prosper. That'll get you to Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and the blog. If you want to follow us and watch the show live, we're live on Twitch and YouTube at 0300 on Friday nights. Be sure to also stop by the blog and the Twitter where we publish extra content for extra graphs and extra price alerts there. If you want to support the show, the best way to do so is through our Patreon at patreon.com/EveProsper. And I really do have to thank every one of our patrons. It really does mean the world. It helps keep the show on the air. And if you want to support us directly, that is the very best place to do so. Again, thank you everybody who tuned in. We will be back next week with even more market news. I've been your host, Lockefox, and this is the Eve Prosper Market Show.